You're going to find that for a lot of my videos, if you happen to watch my content particularly much, you're going to find that I spend a lot of time making it my business to try and avoid talking about particular people, companies, and so forth, because I don't think that it's generally beneficial to do that. There are a number of reasons for this, one of which is that it's a bone of contention for a lot of people. What will happen is one person will really like a company or a group, and another person will really dislike them. So I try to avoid talking about that, and I'm going to do that today. And I just kind of felt the need to sort of preface what I was saying today with that idea. Not really sure why, because it doesn't directly relate to the subject today, which is law is not enough, on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Friday, the 3rd of December of 2021. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube. And again, the subject for today is going to be law is not enough, and we're going to quickly go through my notes so that you will get an idea of what this video is about, having prefaced it, like I say, with something that seems to be unrelated. I am avoiding talking about particular people in particular places in this video as usual, but that's not something that's all that unusual for me, so really it's probably not something that I have a great need to say. I did like the idea that I actually spent a second explaining why, and hopefully you'll appreciate that being the case as well. Getting on to the notes, though, I think I said in a previous edition of the podcast that my brother had made what I believe to be a proper diagnosis when he said the people of the United States, and maybe much of the world, suffer from a spirit of lawlessness. But I want to carry that idea just a tiny bit further. To begin with, not all laws are good. It's true the majority are at least acceptable. There are, however, wicked rulers, I put that in quotes, wicked rulers, and they manage to be who they are as much through law as any other thing, any other mechanism, right? The first reason, this is the first reason, the law is not enough. Law is not enough. The second that pretty much immediately comes to mind is that desire to live in a lawless state from which so many seem to suffer. What you need to understand is if folks don't have the right things in their hearts, imposing laws will only matter if you very strictly enforce them, or matter very much. I'll change that to say that, I guess. And doing that really doesn't change what's inside. I think you may be beginning to see, if you didn't already know, at what I'm driving. You can make folks behave, and to some degree you must do that for certain, maybe many individuals. But all you're doing is reining them in. You don't really have to change hearts or minds to rectitude. If all you do is tell people you'll do this or suffer the consequences if you're caught not doing it. This is one of my primary arguments against communism, funnily enough. The basic idea behind communism, in my view, is if you make folks fall into line, they'll realize how wonderful things are when they do and want to stay there. This is a direct affront, in my opinion, in my view, to human nature. In a simple example, I got into a spirited discussion with a fellow who, after a brief stop, decided to proceed through a parking lot, which was essentially with what was essentially a street running next to it, to which he had easy access. He was running at too high a speed through that parking lot, on top of refusing to take the street, probably because of the speed bumps on it. In his mind, I was probably lacking sanity for calling him to task. It's simple things like this that lead people believing, like the fellow who had just driven through that same parking lot at high speed when children were present, that individuals excuse ever worse that help individuals excuse even worse behavior and attitudes. My point in saying this is, him driving through that parking lot instead of driving on the street is a sort of thing that allows people to excuse worse behavior, in case I'm a little bit obtuse, which I do sometimes. One more point in my notes. Not every good thing is codified in law. Okay, having spent too much time on notes, let's get on with the free discussion. So, kind of following on from that last idea is this. Whether or not something is good is not needfully a matter of it being codified into law. My being kind to other people, you could argue, is not codified into most laws. And by the way, I want to point out something that I had as a discussion with my brother, another brother, in which he said, well, it depends on what you mean by law, doesn't it? And he was talking about the difference between Mosaic law and the law that Christians live under, the law of the land, and various other things, right? There are obviously all of these various things that you can argue, well, these things are law, right? My point is, in none of those, as far as I can tell, the closest being what I consider the Christian law, in none of those is everything codified as correct or proper. So, do unto others as you would have others do unto you is probably the most succinct, proper statement of what you ought to be doing as a human being. Does the law of the land require that of you? No. Does Mosaic law require that of you? It can be argued that it does. But the thing about it is there are lots of people who take that to not be the case. They're probably wrong based on what I know of Mosaic law, but nonetheless, they assume that that's correct. I kind of believe that it does. When it tells you that you should help, and this is not just a New Testament thing, help your neighbor to get your enemy to get his ass out of the ditch, that is his donkey, out of the ditch, right? Even though he's your enemy, that's pretty much a do unto others kind of moment right there, in my opinion. Right? The Good Samaritan probably has its roots in Old Testament things as well. I would not be at all surprised, since much of what Jesus said did in fact come from the Old Testament. He taught it in some truly unconventional ways by comparison to other people, and it was a wonderful thing. It was a great thing the way he taught, because he taught in ways that really turned some stuff that people thought they knew on its head, and showed them that they didn't realize it. But the point is, everything that's good is not everything that's lawful. Some of it is just stuff you really ought to do, believe, and that's all there is to it. So this is something that you need to understand. Also, everything that's lawful is not necessarily good. Again, I think in general we can say that God has his hand on everything and he's making sure things work like they need to, and therefore it's good even if it looks like it's bad. Just like when you ask me why children have to die sometimes in horrific circumstances, I hate that it's true myself, but the fact is I'm pretty sure God has his reasons. My point in all of this, though, is to say this. Law is not enough. We need a society, I think it was probably not Hamilton, it was probably John Adams, or it may have been Ben Franklin. But one of them said something along the lines when asked what kind of government, well, no, actually this was a separate incident, from the Republic incident, said essentially, the Constitution of the United States or the law of the United States or something similar is fit only for a moral people, by which he meant to say, really it's about what's in your heart. Really it's about who you are as a person, and it's about what you believe and why you believe it. It isn't about the law. Don't get me wrong, as I say, you can use the law to deal with lawbreakers, but the thing is, people who have right hearts are going to be people for whom the law is not quite a waste of time, except for the ability to hold lawbreakers to account, right? And this is the thing that I want for people to understand. Law is not enough. What's in your heart? What's in your mind? What you believe, why you believe it, where you get what you get from with regard to how you ought to act and be as a human being, this is the important thing. Law should be only for those who refuse to deal with who they ought to be, for whatever reason, whether their conscience is broken, whether they're megalomaniacal, whether they're psychopathic, whether they're sociopaths, whatever it happens to be, those people have to be dealt with by some standard like law. But the reality is, for the rest of us, that's not what should be driving us, boys and girls. It's just not. So if that's what's driving you, I urge you to rethink. Okay, I need to go ahead and wrap up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Friday, the 3rd of December of 2021. That means tomorrow will be Saturday, the 4th of December. The Sabbath will begin at the end of the day today at sundown, and will end at the end of the day tomorrow, Saturday, the 4th of December, 2021. For those of you that observe observe it, I hope you have a good Sabbath. For those who don't, I hope that those couple of days are good for you regardless of that. Welcome to everyone, and thank you for everyone who has been here on Rumble and on the podcast and on YouTube. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform. Excuse me, something in my eye bothering me there a little bit. Remember, Rumble is, as I say, my preferred platform, and that you can give me a boxing glove or a plus on Rumble if you like what I'm doing and saying and so forth. And you can give me a minus if you find that there's some problem with what I'm doing. Remember, on YouTube, you can give me a thumbs up or a like if you like what I'm doing and saying. You can give me a thumbs down or a dislike if you have a problem with it. Remember that on any platform where I post my content, if you can add comments, if you're able to add comments, I will do my best to read through, listen to, and pay attention to those comments. Subject for today has been law is not enough, and tomorrow we're going to talk on something that actually sort of comes off of this, and it is your actions matter. Your actions matter. I hope you're having a good day today. I hope everything is going well for you and continues to do so. And I hope to see you again on Saturday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Friday, the 3rd of December of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, and maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.